We're looking at Ezekiel today. Now, Ezekiel was one of the people taken away when Babylon attacked Jerusalem the first time. We've heard about that in other talks, haven't we? So Ezekiel was taken away to Babylon, and it's his 30th birthday. Happy birthday, Ezekiel. He's sitting by a stream and he sees a vision. He sees the glory of God. It's hard to describe, but it looks something a bit like that. And then he sees lots of visions. Now, these visions aren't something that really happened. They're a bit like dreams given by God with a true meaning. And I want to tell you about 3 visions that Ezekiel sees. The first vision is dry bones are given life. So he sees a vision and there's a valley, and in that valley are loads of bones. Dry bones, human bones, with no life in them, as if they've been dead for ages. But then there's a strong wind. And God's Spirit comes, and those bones come together. And they get flesh on them. And they start breathing. And they're fully alive. They're not like maybe zombies or something. They're fully alive like me and like you. See, God's Spirit comes and gives these dry bones in the valley life. Well, that's the vision. What's the meaning? Well, those bones are a bit like what God's people are like. The Bible says they are spiritually dead and disobedient, that they keep disobeying God. They have dead hearts towards God. But God's Spirit, the Bible says, will come and give life to his people. His Spirit will give his people new life in their hearts so that they can obey God and have life forever. God says, I will put my Spirit in you and you will live. And you know, in the New Testament of the Bible, Romans says that when Christians trust Jesus, when we trust Jesus, we get God's Spirit. God's Spirit gives Christians spiritual life. God's Spirit gives life that means Christians can please God and live for God and be with God with life forever. So dry bones given life, that's the first vision. The second vision, evil enemies are destroyed. There's a really, really scary enemy attacking God's people. You know, I don't know if you ever played a computer game, and at the end of a level you might play a big bad boss, and at the end of the whole computer game there's a really big bad boss you have to defeat, isn't there? Well, Ezekiel sees a vision a bit like of a big bad boss called Gog. Gog. Now Gog and his armies are really powerful, really scary, really evil. They're so powerful, so scary, so evil that God's people have no chance to beat them. But then God comes to protect his people. He fights against Gog and his armies. He destroys them with earthquakes and fire. And he buries them forever. Well, that's the vision. What's the meaning? Well, Gog is a bit like all the evil in the world. All the rebellion against God. Everything that's scary. And the Bible says all those evil things, God will wipe them out. God will destroy all those enemies. God will destroy all evil. Anyone who rebels against him and tries to hurt you, One day evil will be gone and there will be peace. The New Testament says that when Jesus comes back, evil will be destroyed and Jesus will bring peace. And the third vision is about a temple. Ezekiel is taken to see the temple in Jerusalem. The temple is the place where God lives with his people. But you know what the people are doing there? They're bowing down to and worshipping other gods in God's temple, in God's holy place. It's really sad. And then Ezekiel sees that vision of the glory of God again. And what he sees is the glory of God going up from the temple. And then the glory of God leaves the temple, departs the temple. God abandons the temple. He says enough is enough. After all those years, God leaves. But then, right at the end of Ezekiel, Ezekiel sees another temple, a better temple, a beautiful temple, an amazing temple. And he sees the glory of the Lord come down into that temple. And that's where God lives with his people. And out of that temple comes a river. And wherever that river goes, it brings life. Everything's green, there's all sorts of plants and trees and fruit and animals. And God says their fruit will serve for food and their leaves for healing. Well, that's the vision. What's the meaning? Well, one day God's people will live with God forever. They'll have everything they need. The whole world will be transformed to be completely beautiful. It'd be like the Garden of Eden, but even better. In the very last book of the Bible, Revelation, it says in the future God will live with his people. They will be his people. God will be with them and their God. You know what the best thing about heaven is for Christians? It's not actually all the good stuff that we'd get. It's the fact that God is there. That we will be with him forever. Because Christians love God so much more than just all the stuff he gives. And so Christians look forward to that future, living with God in a new creation. So Ezekiel, 3 visions I've talked about. Dry bones given life. God will give spiritual life to his people. Evil enemies destroyed. God will bring peace forever. And a temple where God will live with his people. Christians can look forward to living with God forever.